Evening, everybody. Welcome to the Kingsnorth Parish Council meeting of Tuesday, the 13th of April. As we may still have some people joining us, I think, and we're intending on taking a minute's silence, I think we'll take the apologies first so that we don't get interruptions during that. So, Peter, have you got any apologies?
Yes, Councillor Patricia Moss.
Okay. I've had apologies from Councillor Cornish and I believe Heather Hayward, although I can't remember. And I don't believe there's anybody else. Okay. So I'd now ask members if they'd like to observe a minute's silence to remember His Royal Highness Prince Philip. Thank you very much. So we'll now move back onto the agenda. And the next item is to receive declarations of interest.
Yep, director of the company that does web hosting and the emails. Oh, and the Zoom hosting.
Thank you. Councillor Moss.
Yes, I'm the chair of the trustees for Kingsnorth Recreational Centre.
Okay, thank you. And I think that's everybody wishing to speak. So we'll move on to public comments and observations, but I understand that there are no members of the public who have requested to speak. So the next item is verbal reports from external parties, and I believe the PCSO has a report for us.
Hello everybody, I hope they're all keeping well and everything. Just quickly, just to update you on the clover leaf, as Pete's probably already made you aware, we don't really have any further details at the moment. As I said last month, the police will deal with any COVID breaches and any dangerous driving or parking. Apart from that, it is over to the local authorities, and I believe that they're doing what they can at the present time to sort things out. I haven't really got any more of an update than that. We've got a campaign this week across the Ashford district on e-scooters and to try and stop people because they need to be taxed and MOT to be on the road. They shouldn't be on the pavement. So we've got a campaign on just for this week. And all PCSOs and some PCs are on this operation just to try and educate people that e-scooters should not be on the pavement at all. And finally, last month you spoke to me about the knife bins. So I'm pleased to report that we're hopefully going to get one in the Stanhope area. So that's sort of quite close to Washford Farm area, which is where we wanted it. And just to make you aware, there is one in Park Mall and one in Dover Place currently, but Stanhope one, I think they're just trying to get some funding and stuff, and I'll let you know when I know that's going in, if that's okay.
Thank you very much. That sounds great.
Okay.
Did anyone have any questions for the PCSO at all? Councillor Moss.
Just one really, and I do realise that her bailiwick has really increased something threefold maybe, but it would be nice occasionally if we could have a little bit of presence around the Kingsnorth area, just to let people know that, you know.
Yeah,
we are there.
I do try my best. I sometimes do foot patrol, but I have got 6 wards, so you know I can't do it all on foot. But if I'm not on foot, I'm usually in a car, and I try and get round all my wards every day. And sometimes, as you may or may not know, I am operational as well. So if there's been a scene in Ashford, I might have to go and stand on the scene for 10 hours, so I'm not on my areas. But yeah, I do try and get around, and you know, I try and do foot as much as possible, so I'm seen. But I will speak to somebody and they say, never seen a PCSO in years, and I say, but I've been on foot. If you haven't seen me on foot, it's not because I'm not here, you know, it's just you weren't about when I was about. So yeah, but thank you. I will try and do a bit more foot round Kingsnorth.
Don't take it as a criticism. It
Oh,
was
no,
just,
I'm not at all. No, not at all. But yeah, I do, you know, quite a bit of foot.
okay.
All right.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
You're very welcome.
I realise now I should have said that I've had apologies from Councillor Angel, who's not going to be attending because due to PERDA, he thought it's perhaps not appropriate for him to be updating much of any significance from KCC perspective. So we have Councillor Wedgbury here from ABC. I don't know if he's got ABC business he'd like to update us on.
So you had.
The only thing I'll say, there was a appeals decision on an application on Park Farm, 2 Bridleway Lane or Road, and I'm very disappointed with the inspector's decision. The inspector clearly didn't have a complete misunderstanding of how the estate works, and they approved the planning application that was refused to committee, which is extremely disappointing. I always have to point
that. As I say, we are in PERDA, and on that basis, I will make no borough council comments. But I didn't quite hear what the PCSO said at the latter end of her comment because of overspeak. So forgive me. But it was reported at the Stanhope Parish Council meeting last week or the week before regarding 2 youths being caught using catapults. And I know that's plagued areas of Kingsnorth as well. And so I'd like to congratulate the police service in the round, PCSOs and the police officers, in catching 2 individuals using catapults and taking appropriate action. So the point I'm making there is, yes, we all suffer these activities, but the police are active in their role to try and enforce good behaviour within the borough. So I just wanted to make that comment. With regard to the use of the cloverleaf, the local authority is taking investigations into the activity regarding the appropriate use of the land in the context of planning, but the use of the roundabout and the parking on the roundabout is clearly with KCC and the police. And I just think we need to all understand where the different demarcations of responsibility are. And the parish council are the ones who are getting all the grief from local residents. And I accept that. Well, I don't accept it. I acknowledge that. The borough council are investigating the situation, but KCC Highways and the police need to make sure that the access onto that land is appropriate, and where it's not appropriate, take appropriate action. So it's the parking, it's the access, and all the rest of the arrangements that need to be looked at on a multi-agency approach. And that's the comment I'll make there. This is obviously going to go on. It won't be resolved overnight, but I do not apologise, but I acknowledge the grief that Peter particularly and the parish get from residents. And it's just a case of communicating where the various responsibilities lie. And it's not in one camp, it's a multi-agency activity. I could say more, but there's no point. I think we all understand that. I'll leave it there, but thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
I'll
Councillor
take
Westbury.
any questions.
Thank you.
I have to correct Neil on one thing. It's not KCC responsibility because it's Highways England, the Cloverleaf and the 2070s Highways England. So
It's Highways Agency, but you're right, Jim. It's not KCC. I apologise for that. Yeah.
I do. I'm not criticising you. It's just correcting what is actually correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you're right. It's not KCC. It's Highways England. You're right. Thank you.
Okay. I have received from Councillor Cornish a statement that I believe ABC has given her that the parish council can read, but I think I'll read that later when we've got this on the agenda rather than in this section of the agenda now. Thank you. So if there's nobody with any questions for Councillor Shorter or Wedgbury, then I'm intending to move on. Okay, thank you very much. So the next item is the approval of the minutes of Tuesday, the 9th of March. I believe that Councillor Hicks would like to propose an amendment to that. Sorry, you're muted at the moment, Councillor Hicks.
Okay. First of all, sorry I didn't start at the meeting, but I couldn't get in. I couldn't find the link. It was just that when, I can't remember which one it was now, when you were talking about the village hall, you said all the members of the public went, but you didn't say I went as well. So I think you should say that. I did actually send something to James, was it, or to Murray?
And I know I've seen it. I'm not sure entirely who it was addressed to, but just for members, if you could clarify the change you'd like made, and then we can vote on it, if that's okay.
Sorry, I thought it was all being done. I'm looking for it. There we go. It was item 14, and it says all members of the public, Ashford Borough councillors, Kent County Councillor, and members of staff left the meeting. So you just say, and Councillor Hicks as trustee of the village hall.
Okay.
So you should add my name in, please.
Okay.
And if you, as I was late, when you did declarations of interest, you better say I'm a trustee of the village hall as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So would you like to propose, is that a proposal that on the minutes, Councillor
Yes,
Hicks?
certainly, I'll propose them.
Okay, I'm happy to second that. Can I have a show of hands for those in favour, please? Any against or abstaining? Can you vocalise that, please? Okay, thank you. That passes. The next item is the consideration of community grant application. Now, the applicant has provided Peter with a reason that he thinks is acceptable why they're going to be late and in unforeseen circumstances for this meeting. So I'm intending to take that later on the agenda. So we'll move on to the parish action sheet. So the first item on the action sheet is to arrange a meeting with the custodian, with ABC to discuss the custodian trustee contract at the Recreation Centre. Ashford Borough Council's legal department is still under significant pressure and has resourcing issues. So I think it's going to be a while before we get to that. And that's still the case. On the second item, we did have a meeting scheduled with ABC, but the officer was leaving and due to needing to tie up loose ends on existing casework, they needed to cancel that meeting. So we now need to rearrange with the new officer for our area, which we'll do. The Bridgefield and Park Farm Snakes is on the main agenda, so I won't address that now. The Angling and Angling Society and Park Farm Moat. Ashford Borough Council has commissioned an initial drainage assessment to see whether there was a leak in the moat that explained the low water level or the perceived low water levels. I think it's fair to say that assessments raised the need for further assessments. So we should hear more in time on that. We are hoping to get another meeting with Len Myatt soon at ABC to discuss the moat. And I believe, Peter, we've got authority to do the survey work that we approved at the last meeting from ABC. But we need to get a health and safety risk assessment from the company that will be doing the work and provide that to ABC in order for that to progress. So things are moving forward there, hopefully. Kingsnorth Village Hall, we're discussing closed to give members an update. The future of the conservation fields. We had a meeting yesterday evening where we invited those members of the public that expressed an interest following the precept letter. So that was largely just so the members of the public could introduce themselves to understand people's initial viewpoints and what may be useful in terms of future meetings. I think in future that will be advertised and we will have more members of the public, and that will go on Kingsnorth Parish Council social media. But Peter and I wanted to have that initial meeting so that it was still fresh in people's memories, having requested to be on the list in case it is a period of time before we have something material to talk about. The next item was the mowing regime for maintained verges and wildlife. I know someone who works at the Bumblebee Trust and things, and have started talking to them about what their recommendations are on this type of thing and how it works, but I still need to research that more. We have contacted Persimmon regarding the footpath on the east side of the Park Farm estate or west of Bridgefield, which runs north-south parallel to the railway. We met with them last Monday, and the person that we met is happy to recommend to his superior that the parish council can resurface or provide a path through that piece of land so that there is that continuous route through there. So that seems hopeful. The parish council YouTube policy is on the agenda. Possibility of the parish council purchasing a flagpole is on the agenda. Looking at litter picking on the highway, this came up again recently because Great Chart wished to do a litter pick of various roads such as Magpie Hall Road and Long Length in a joint exercise, but we're still uncomfortable about the litter picking those roads given the speeds on them. So we need to work on this with KCC and even Highways England to try and get a commitment from them to litter pick their roads or suggest a solution so that we may be able to litter pick them safely. And then the parish e-newsletter content and review. So in the parish precept letter, there was a link, well, an email address so that residents could request to be added to the newsletter list. We haven't produced an e-newsletter to date. So if there are members of the parish council that would be willing to assist Peter and the team to produce that initial one and subsequent ones, then that would be much appreciated, because it's going to be quite a lot of work figuring out what that initial format and the type of content might be, although it may grow over time. So if anyone's willing to volunteer, but I'll just take, Peter's got his hand up and I've not spotted it earlier, so I'll take Peter first.
Yeah, it's just to say, with regards to the litter picking and the roads, it was Stubbs Cross, so Tally Ho Road, leading into Chilmington Green Road. Obviously, I raised concerns with this because obviously the roads are over 40 miles per hour. And she came back to me, this is Ashford Borough Council, saying that if I have a schedule of high-speed road clearances, and I shall bring these roads to their attention in our meeting later this week. This was sent a couple of weeks ago. So she's going to bring up the roads that she mentioned, or Great Child mentioned, and hopefully they'll be litter picked at some point by BIFA.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bridger.
Yeah, just going back on the e-newsletter part, I was thinking it might be a good idea to have a bit on there for like a councillor each month to be able to put a bit on there about themselves, and to do a sort of a letter to residents, just for each councillor each month.
And are you volunteering there, Matt, to be part of the?
Yeah, I'll put my name forward. I'm happy.
Thank you.
Do
I have some other volunteers, please? I'm not volunteering for this one, so. Stuart, you're looking, Councillor Moss.
I can chip in as and where if Peter needs some assistance.
Thank you. Is 2 sufficient, Peter, do you believe?
Yeah, it's just to get some ideas and to bounce kind of the format and the content off everyone's, so everyone's happy with it. Just to give you an update, we've got about nearly 100 residents sign up to the newsletter so far. And we've only done it kind of a couple of pushes, so it's not a bad turn up so far.
Thank you. Councillor Wedgbury.
I'm happy to contribute. I can speak to Peter anytime, so if you want me to contribute as well. So
thank you. Yep, that'd be great. Councillor Hicks.
I don't know if you've seen that Shaddockshurst produce a newsletter from their ward member and the parish council. So if Peter hasn't seen that, I'll send him a copy over, but I'll contribute things as and when. No problem.
Thank you. That'd be great. Okay. So the next one was at the last meeting, Councillor Hicks mentioned about the potential for a sunflower competition. I think you've done a bit of research on this piece. Do you want to run through that?
Yeah, so Marie's done a bit of research into the cost of getting some sunflowers for the schools, and sunflower seeds, that is, which are not too expensive. And then I had a chat with James, and obviously if we're going to kind of promote it with the schools, then we probably need to provide some pots and maybe some compost. Or we can speak to the schools, but looking at the kind of prices, it comes in kind of around about the £500 mark. If we gave every child 2 seeds, because obviously, we always plant 2 sunflower seeds and then go with the best one. Or we could offer it out we could open it up to the whole community, because you can plant your sunflowers from May onwards, and kind of get people to send in photos of how their plants are growing and how tall they've got. And then, once we get to a stage where we've got some really tall ones, we can start kind of having a bit of competition to find out who's got biggest sunflower in Kingsnorth. So I think it'd be an easy way to do a competition without having to worry about getting people together. Obviously, with the restrictions, obviously, you know, they are easing, but we're still supposed to be following social distancing. So they could do it within their own gardens and send us photos and show us the heights and stuff next to a tape measure. And if we're not too sure, we can always send Matt round with a ladder. So check their measurements.
Thank you, Peter. Councillor Hicks.
I think we should open it up to all children within the village, not just the 2 schools. So if other people want to join in, I think we should include them. But other villages simply go around with get the children to send in photos and with the tape measure beside it. So it would be the tallest one, whoever has got the tallest sunflower, and then we can go around and check it to see whoever is the winner, and then award some sort of certificate or get the mayor to come out and do something. It's all for community involvement, basically.
Yeah. It was going to be open to everyone every child in Kingsnorth, but obviously
Good.
if we provide the seeds to the schools, then at least we know we've got like 800 kids that have got seeds. So
okay, good.
Councillor Shorter, you've got a hand raised.
Thank you, Chairman. I think, apologies for coming in on what is a parish council matter, but I think this is a fantastic idea for community engagement, and I fully endorse what you're doing. 2 points, if I may. If it's for community engagement, involving children is great, but there are also older folk out there who might wish to be engaged in this. Can I suggest maybe not providing the seeds, or seeds could be made available, but bring adults into this as a different category? As a community exercise, I think that brings some humour into it. And on that note, can I just suggest a risk assessment for measuring the height? Thank you.
Okay. So I think the suggestion here, if items are more than £500, then we need to bring them onto the main agenda, is generally how we operate. So I think Peter's saying that at around £500, he thinks that we can do this, and I believe Councillor Hicks would like to do it. So is this, sorry, Councillor Shorter.
Sorry to come back in. Point I'd make is there are grants from borough councillors, and for a community activity, I think I would certainly like to contribute, and I'm sure other borough councillors would like to contribute. A really good community activity, I would support that.
Good.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Hicks, I'm trying to put words into your mouth, but are you proposing that the PC spends up to £500 on this activity? Peter would contact borough councillors to see if they're willing to contribute, which may mean that the PC needs to fund less of that.
Or even more if we're going to include a different category for older people. Yeah. So we can have one category for children. You could divide it into sort of you could say primary school children and under, secondary school children up to 18, and those over 18.
Okay, so widening the thing up, but the total cost would be at most £500 for the PC. Yes.
Yes, I'm happy to propose that, and if it goes over, then we'll have to ask the the borough councillors for little donation.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a show of hands for those in favour, please? Those against or abstaining, could you vocalise that, please? Okay, thank you. So that's the last item on the action sheet. And so we go back to the main agenda. And the next item is, sorry, I should have asked, are there items that members would like added to the action sheet? Councillor Bridger, did you have one?
Yeah, it was to look at the signage at the cafe, and to look at getting some signs on the front of the cafe, because there's no advertising there.
Okay. Do we have any other suggestions? Okay, I think at the next on the next agenda, we'll need to start bringing some more of the budget items onto the action sheet so that they can start progressing through. But we've managed to get the action sheet down a bit. Peter nearly thought it would fit on one page, so we got quite excited. So an update on the Park Farm and Bridgefield snake benches. Peter, were you happy to take this one?
Of course. Back in January, we brought to you about commissioning a bench that would have the stones kind of implanted into the top of the bench that would go in the moat park and also over at Bridgefield. We did have one quote, which was 1,790. We received a second quote following that meeting, which was 1,470. We did attempt to get a third quote, but the guy declined to quote because he said he wouldn't be able to match the other two quotes. It'd be double that. From speaking to one of the people that quoted for it, he did voice a few concerns about the longevity of the stones within the resin, because obviously depending on what the stone was covered with, once they kind of go into the resin, they may kind of bleed into the resin or kind of discolor. Also, there was concerns around whether if it was damaged, then we've paid out a fair bit of money, which obviously can't be replaced very easily. So we've kind of, it doesn't sit quite right, paying out kind of nearly £3,500 for two benches that potentially may only last, a maximum of 10 years, but possibly less depending on how things go. So there's a couple of options. We can either go ahead with kind of what we agreed a few months ago, or we could look at not proceeding with the benches, but allocating some money that we obviously had for these to kind of set out a stone or a snake or a dragon or whichever kind of act, because I know that the Limes are doing one at the moment. They're kind of theming it. So basically each year we'd get out a selection of the stones and encourage members of the public to put more stones down. And this, depending on the year, it could be something to do with that year. So, if it's an Olympic year, they could do Olympic stones or something that's kind of linked to that year. And we could also provide some arts and crafts materials to some of the local schools, nurseries, and potentially to like just the general residents, so they can design and paint their own stones. And then it's kind of a thing that happens every year. It's not just about COVID, which obviously the original stones were about, although a lot of them weren't actually COVID related. There were lots of different things like superheroes and animals and things like that. So it's kind of down to you guys what you want to do, and the options are there. So we can either go with what we agreed, or we look at something slightly different.
Thank you, Peter. So I think the concern that, I know you gave us the authority to go ahead with the benches, but we weren't sure that they were going to work in the long term. If you want to do that, then obviously that's the decision of the parish council, and we'll action that. But in 10 years' time or so, we won't have any stones left, and the benches may have run their life, and then there isn't a memorial anymore. So this suggestion was just something that we may be able to bring we could bring the stones out every year on say for a month from the date of the first lockdown. We can seed snakes in potentially Bridgefield, Park Farm, and we may want to do something further to the northwest, such as one in Washford or in Roman. That perhaps £500 or something of that sort of quantum could be spent on art supplies for primary schools and things to get children involved, and And then in 10 years' time, it may be the case that there is actually none of the original stones left, but we have got the stones from the previous years and things, and it becomes a perpetual thing. And Councillor Moss, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Chair. I would agree with the second. I think you want something in perpetuity. There was too many R's in there, but forget that. Perpetuity. And if the benches, etc., are going to fade in 10 years, then it's gone. And everything that we tried to create historically from a very, very changed world from 2020 onwards, I think the second idea is much, much better. And I would endorse that we also extend the areas, because the Roman War did have one on the field beside Pound Lane, but it's been kicked up since then. But if we put up notice boards explaining why and what they're there for and why we're doing this on a yearly basis, I'm sure it would be quite a one, it please the residents because they're not forgotten, and two, it would be a bit of a crowd puller, because then there could be a this is what we've done, what have you done, how have they done theirs, etc., etc.
And did you propose that there, Councillor Moss?
Yeah, I'd like to propose that, actually.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hicks.
There is, of course, a third option, which I would like to suggest, and that we put the stones in the flower bed at the side of the recreation centre. It's just been dug out, and it's the car park is well used. Lots of people walk past there, including nursery school children and children from all the schools. So I think that would be a cheaper option for us. Also, I'm a bit concerned about encouraging people to paint stones, because in the main, the stones that people paint, they go down the beach and pick the stones up, and the removal of stones from beaches is actually illegal. So I don't know where you're going to get the stones from if it's not the beach. If the children actually wish to paint stones, there's no reason why they can't put them at each school, and they would be a lot safer, I think, there. And I'm a bit concerned that we're asking teaching staff to do extra work when they're fully involved with catching up with the national curriculum after the COVID. If we want to provide art material to the schools, that's a different matter, and I fully support that. But do residents actually want to do all this sort of thing, or is this just our idea? But if we have got a lot of stones and they are really worthwhile doing, can't we make them into a permanent mural and put them somewhere, say on an outside wall, for instance, by the pavilion or by the rec centre? Because outside the library in Ashford, before it was redeveloped, there was a lovely mural of Ashford, and I would see no reason why we couldn't do something along those lines. So maybe you'd like to make comments on that, please.
Okay. Just on the putting it on a wall, then I'll come to Councillor Townend. We did look at the possibility of having some sort of, originally at Park Farm Bridgefield, there was going to be a kind of display case type idea that the stones could be put in. That was working out to be potentially more expensive than the benches, and also it's likely that you'll get condensation issues in there, and whether the paints will last, and also whether you then get mildew in there and things, and whether you need to clean inside the cases and things. And that's something we explored, but I'm not sure, it wasn't quite working, and it was ending up quite expensive. And also at Bridgefield with that one, the park's still not owned by ABC, and the putting things on the wall was expensive, as we learnt with the defibrillators. So we did kind of had a bit of a run at that route, but got put off along the way.
I do think a mural would be quite a good idea, because everybody in the whole of the parish could be involved in that. It doesn't have to be covered with glass. If the stones are embossed in concrete on some sort of big tray held up, I would have thought it was feasible. Just an idea.
Thank you. I'll take Councillor Townend and then Councillor Wedgbury, please.
Yeah, you basically said the majority of what I was going to say, James, is that I don't think that they can, the original stones, the stones that people put out to acknowledge the COVID situation would last more than a few months out in exposed, unless they was putting something to protect it, and then it would just be, you know, it will literally deteriorate very quickly and just be a bunch of stones. And I think having something to be able to bring them out as a yearly thing, adding to it and stuff like that would be a better idea.
Thank you. So are you seconding Councillor Ross's proposal there?
Yeah, I would second the proposal. I mean, I think I also agree that a memorial or something like that, a mural would be a good idea, but I don't think using the stones that we currently have in something like that would work from a cost perspective, and you know, they just deteriorate rapidly. And so maybe having something separate as a memorial or a mural would be a good idea, but not including the original stones.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wedgbury.
I'd happily second Councillor Moss's proposal.
Thank you.
Councillor Hicks speaks a lot of sense, really. The only thing that concerns me is that we had the original lady who supported the snakes in Park Farm North, and Councillor Cornish. Maybe we need to consult with them. I quite like the idea of putting some sort of more. We could do it on an internal wall, by the way, within the rec centre. Might not be a bad way of doing it. But maybe the rec centre is the correct place. But I think we need to speak to the original lady who wanted the particularly Bridgefield snake, and we need to speak to Councillor Cornish on their views, really, before we go ahead with whatever option we decide on.
So would you be proposing to defer this until the next meeting so that we can consult with the people you've mentioned?
I think it might be appropriate to defer until we've spoken to those people, get their views on. We can give them all the options we've discussed tonight, which I think they are all reasonable options, and get their views, because it's only right to get their views before we make a decision, in my view.
I second that.
I think that's a fair point as well.
Okay. Did I have anyone else wishing to speak? So, Councillor Townend, are you withdrawing your seconding of Councillor Moss's proposal? Because that one was proposed and seconded first. So
I'm not necessarily withdrawing. I think it's the best overall decision, but I also agree with what Jim said, that we're not the only people involved in this process. There are original people and people that have worked hard to get to this stage that are not within this voting group. So I would happily defer it as well. If I need to withdraw my seconding for it, then I will do. But
okay, well, procedurally, the first vote would be on Councillor Moss's proposal if you retain your seconding, and then the second vote would be on Councillor Wedgbury's proposal. However, if you withdraw your seconding of Councillor Moss's proposal, then there's only one motion, which is Councillor Wedgbury's proposal. So I just wanted some clarity given your later comments.
Yeah, I withdraw my seconding of Councillor Moss's original proposal, but okay. I also want to say that I still think it's the best one, but I do think deferring it's the best idea to get more input.
Okay, so we've only got one motion, which is to defer this to next month and consult with the people that Councillor Wedgbury's mentioned. So all those in favour, could you please show your hands? All those against or abstaining, could you please abstain? Vocalise that, please. Thank you. Okay, so the next item was to review options on potential flagpole locations within the parish. Peter, did you want to take us through this, please?
Yeah, just to let you know that Betsy has now joined the meeting, so I don't know if you want to take that after this item or before.
I think we'll get to the end of the parish action sheet number 5 list, and then we'll take it, I think.
Okay, no problems. So after Councillor Angel suggested us potentially getting a flagpole in the parish, I came up with a document which I've obviously circulated with the agenda, looking at each of the potential locations for a flagpole. So we've got 5 different potential options. We've got the village green, the Park Farm entrance roundabout, which is just not actually on the roundabout, but to the side of it, where the Park Farm estate walls and writing are. The pavilion and playing fields, the moat, and the end of the conservation fields at the top end of Park Farm South, or the other side of the A2070 in the railway line in Bridgefield. Hopefully everyone's read the document. What I've done is I've broken it down into location, the landowner, the pros, the cons, and the comments. We've got two locations that are owned by ourselves, and we've got the other 3 which are owned or managed by Ashford Borough Council. All of the options would require planning permission, and the options where we don't own the land would require permission from the landowner. And I've obviously put some comments on each of the ones. So we've got kind of 3 options to move it forward. Do we actually want a flagpole in the parish? We've looked at all the options. Do we definitely want one? If we do, then you need to decide kind of where, as a majority, you'd like it to be installed, what your timescales are. Is it long or short term? Because if it's short term, then obviously the land that we own it would be quicker, because it'd be the planning permission that we need to get. Whereas if it's longer term, we might need to, or if it's one of the other areas where we have to seek permission, that could be a bit longer. And also how much money you want to spend in terms of money on the actual pole, but also the staff officer time in kind of putting it together. So I can hand over to you guys. If you want me to share the screen, I can. It's totally up to you guys.
I think we're probably okay, Peter. Thank you. Did have members wishing to speak?
Everyone come in there, James, if that's all right. Peter, would you be able to just remind me how much the cost was for the flagpole?
Yeah, it came in at just under £1,000 for the installation and purchase of the actual flagpole, and then to have a flag, it's an extra £170. So you're looking at £1,100.
If I could put a proposal together, James, because we've got a number of sites, I was thinking the village green for the main flagpole, but also looking at another one which we could put on the pavilion that would come off the exterior of the building, which you're only looking at about £60. So I'd be happy to propose that we allocate up to £1,300 for maybe 2 flagpoles, one on the village green and one off the pavilion building. And that'd be my proposal.
Okay, I think just in cost terms, it would be more than that, because we'd have planning permission to seek and things. So sorry, I'll think about that a little bit while Councillor Wishbury speaks, please.
Yes, I think recent events have proved, and I've been, as you know, I do home delivery for Tesco's. Sorry about the advertising. It's no doubt about it, a large number of the members of the public would like to see a flagpole. As recent events have shown, if you can fly a flag at half-mast, it is very appropriate, and a huge number of people support it, of all generations. I personally think the village green, I know we own the village green, is the wrong place, and I know I'm biased. I think the best place, because it gets the most coverage, is by the entrance park, and I'd move the entrance park only because it's the best coverage. Although I think there are other sites that could possibly have, because we're such a big parish, there are other sites within the parish we could have flagpoles. But as a starting point, I would like to move the entrance park.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hicks.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
I can do, yes.
Yes, sorry. That was my suggestion originally, and I would fully support a flagpole by the entrance, because I do think everybody needs to see it. And all these other places, it's going to be very limited vision. Also, if we had a flagpole up at the pavilion, that would be 3 flagpoles in very close proximity, and it does seem a bit of an overkill to me. There is also to think about in the future when we've got Park Farm, no, Bridgefield Southeast, very south, all the new development that's going on. There's no reason why we couldn't ask them to do something in some of the green land around there. I'm not suggesting perhaps a flagpole, but I think we've got potential to ask the Simmons or Taylor Wimpey to provide something. Anyway, so I'm seconding Jim's proposal.
For Entrance Park?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Cosgrove, please.
It's noted that Councillor Bridger did propose and was carried NEMCOM last month that we have a budget of £1,500 for flagpoles.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, did you have a comment on the location, or was it just clarifying the budget position?
I just want to clarify the budget position because I didn't see why we're going to reopen what we'd already approved.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Townend, I think.
Yeah, just a couple of points. I mean, I agree with what's said. I don't think the village hall, the village green is the best place. There's a lot of stuff there, even though it'd be the easiest place for us to put it, because we obviously own the land. But I'd also say, you know, and I also don't think the pavilion is the same for what Councillor Hicks said, is that there's 2 flagpoles literally next to it. So is there need of a third? I suppose from a counter argument about the need to having a flagpole, if there is already 2 flagpoles within the village, do we actually need a third? If it does go in the, I don't understand. It's not going to be recognised as being our flagpole. It would just be a flagpole, so people won't know that it's something that we did as a parish council. And again, not my personal view, but as opposed to what Jim said, Councillor Wedgbury said about the popularity at the moment, there's also a huge amount of negativity to flying flags and flagpoles as well at the moment. There's a massive counter argument to that, the popularity of it as well. So, like I said, not my personal view, but it's not, you know, a universal view that flying flags is universally loved.
Okay.
So
I'm
just not, yeah.
For me, I think the village green is potentially heading towards getting a bit over cluttered, and a flagpole probably be too much. And I'd agree with the pavilion. So it does look like it would not be on our land. So I would be proposing that, although Entrance Park may be the preference of some councillors, that initially the action is to discuss with ABC about what locations they think might be suitable, and we can perhaps do that when we have a meeting with Len Myatt and with planning officers, and then bring it back to the PC about what options are feasible on ABC's land. Councillor Hicks, please.
You said you didn't know whether you wanted to be a short term or long term. I suggest that this is going to be long term project.
Okay. Okay, so the only proposal that has been moved and seconded is that we pursue a flag on Entrance Park, I believe. But Councillor Bridge would like to...
Sorry, James, it's not in the actual Entrance Park. It's on the bit of land as you come in off the roundabout into Park Farm. So where the
adjacent to the Park Farm signage.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Sorry, Councillor Bridger, I think you wanted to speak, and then Councillor Townend.
I was just going to second you on your proposal, James. I think if it's not on land that we own, then we need to, of course, go back to ABC and find out what land, or any other organisation to find out what land we can use to put the flagpole on first before we make a decision.
Thank you, Councillor Wedgbury. Sorry, was it Wedgbury or Tannant? I got confused.
Tannant, not me.
Sorry.
I mean, I'm quite inclined to make a proposal. I don't think it will get a seconder, but I'm also proposing: do we actually necessarily need a flagpole? Is there a need for it? It seems to be a lot of money, a very long-term project for something we're not going to be guaranteed to be able to do. There's already 2 in the village already, and it seems to be a bit of a, I don't know.
Okay.
It was a nice idea originally, but I don't necessarily my personal feel think there's a need for one.
Okay. For me, I'm not particularly wedded to the idea of a flagpole, but if members want it, I'm not going to vote against either. But it's going to be quite dependent on what the location is and how many people I think see it. If it is in a low traffic location, and I don't think it's particularly desirable there, then I'm likely to be against the flagpole generally. But I can't really say much until I know where. Councillor Moss, please.
Hi, thank you. Just a quick one with Ben, Councillor Townsend. I am absolutely surprised by the number of, when I walk around the Roman ward, the number of flagpoles that are displayed. And I wasn't surprised when I found out after the Duke of Edinburgh passed away, the number of those flags that went down to half-mast. What I'm trying to say is, in a bit of a long-winded way, is I do believe that people, if you give them something to respect, they feel as though it's worth that respect. Wherever the flagpole goes, it should be the fact that, or if it goes for that matter, it should be the fact that we're doing it for the respect of, 1, of our parish, and 2, for our country. It's as simple as that to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we had a motion. Sorry, Councillor Tannant. I'd like to move to votes quickly, but go on, come.
I just want to say, yeah, I completely understand that, Jim, and respect it, and understand that people, do enjoy a flag and being proud and showing their patriotism that way. I do think that if you're that, way-minded, then you would have your own flagpole. There's already 2 flagpoles. I'm just saying, I don't necessarily we would need to do one ourselves. But like I said, I don't necessarily expect to be second, or that to be a popular opinion.
Okay, thank you. So I think we've got 2 proposals that have been moved and seconded. I think the first one was, I can't remember if it was proposed or seconded by Councillor Hickson Wedgbury. Which one was the original proposer? Councillor Wedgbury. And then that was that we pursue a flagpole in the vicinity of the Park Farm signage by Entrance Park, I believe is the location we're looking at. And the second motion was proposed by myself and seconded by Councillor Bridger, that we speak to ABC about what locations might be feasible, and then bring it back to the council. So we'll take Councillor Wedgbury's motion first. Can all those in favour show their hands, please? Can those against show their hands, please? Can any abstaining show their hands, please, or vocalise? Thank you. So the second motion, can all those in favour show their hands, please? All those against, please? And abstaining, please. Thank you. So I believe that carries, Peter, is that correct? Actually, is that correct? Because we had 2 abstentions. Sorry, all those in favour again, please. So that's 5 votes. All those against, please. 1 vote. And abstentions, please. 3 votes. Thank you. So the next item was to consider appointing a PC representative to the Village Hall Committee. Peter has emailed the candidates for the co-option to see if any of them would be willing to stand to put themselves forward to be the PC's representative on the Village Hall Committee. I have had confirmation from Alison Brees that she's willing to do so if the PC wishes her to be their representative. Peter, have you had any correspondence from any others?
No.
Okay. So, Councillor Wedgbury, please.
I move that we make her our representative.
Thank you. Is anyone willing to second that? Councillor Hicks. Thank you. Can all those in favour show their hands, please? Can any against or abstaining vocalise that, please? Councillor Cosgrove.
I'll abstain.
Councillor Groves abstaining. Is that okay, Peter? Thank you. So we'll now take the parish community grant applications. I believe that the applicant's now with us. So if they'd like to take a few minutes to explain anything or give us an introduction, and then if members have got questions, I'm happy for them to ask the applicant if the applicant's willing to answer. So Betsy, if you could unmute yourself, please. Okay, possibly Betsy's not near her computer, so we'll take policies and then we'll try again. So Councillor Bridger, could you run us through the YouTube policy, please?
Thank you, James. Let me just bring it up. Maybe a second. Right, so you should have all had the policy sent over by email because I know there's an issue where it wasn't attaching to the agenda this morning. So with the meetings taking place on Zoom, I believe, speaking with other councils, it would be a good idea that we put the copy of the meetings onto YouTube for residents who can't attend to be able to have a watch back. That way we can keep transparent. So it's just a small policy, speaking with ABC to find out what their policy's got. They haven't really got one, so they've sort of given me a hand. And it's basically just to outline that at the end of each meeting, because they're recorded, there'll be the bits that are not involved in the meeting, so closed session and stuff will be cut out. And then it'll be uploaded onto YouTube for residents to be able to watch back. But any bit where, say, a councillor swears or maybe the public swears or something, we can cut that out as well out of the meeting and we'll be covered on that. And the same with things like election, we need to be careful on what can be said and what can't be. So we're not supporting any political party or candidate. So that would be cut out the meeting as well. So it's mainly just a policy to say at the end of each meeting, the video will go onto YouTube, be put on our Facebook, and then residents who want to watch it back will be able to watch it back. And then it can either be deleted after a month or so, or it can stay on there. It's entirely up to us.
Okay, thank you. And I will, as Peter's the one that's going to be using it, Peter, you comfortable, you know what's expected from the policy in terms of you implementing it and uploading it onto YouTube and things?
Yeah, no, that's fine. The only thing I'm going to just throw in there is obviously, as it stands, our main meeting will probably be the last, potentially the last Zoom meeting, because at the moment legislation says that we, from the 6th or 7th of May, we have to go back either to face-to-face meetings or to delegate authority to myself to conduct business until we feel it's safe to do so. There is some obviously court cases going to the High Court on the 21st of April, challenging the legislation which may extend virtual meetings until kind of middle of June. So obviously, I mean, it's good to have a policy there in place. If we continue to have Zoom meetings, or if we decide to have a kind of hybrid Zoom and face-to-face, or if we decide that we want to upload the recording of the meeting. So yeah, just to vote, obviously, just to make people aware of that.
Thank you. Councillor Bridger, you wanting to propose?
Yeah, I'll propose that.
Do you have anyone with questions or wanting to second? Councillor Cosgrove, then Councillor Gaurav, please.
Yeah, I've just got a question. So these will conflict with the minutes. So if they're uploaded, edited, then they'll conflict with the minutes because they're minutes of a true recording of the parish. And also, not really happy about putting ourselves up there, because once it's up, it will go everywhere. And also that you know, it's pandering to people who can't be bothered to attend the meeting in the first place. You know, if they can't be bothered to attend the meeting, they can read the minutes. It's all there. Why we have to sort of frustrate ourselves to please the lazy, I've got no idea.
I'd start off on your first point, Jeff. Going on the part of the minutes, it won't be taking everything out. It's just if a councillor swears, that few seconds of them swearing can be muted. And the bit about closed session, because that can't be shown online and it can't be shown to the public, that would then be cut out. But the rest of the full meeting would stay on there, so it would reflect the minutes of the meeting. The part about where you speak about showing your face online and being recorded, the meetings are recorded anyway. It's, you know, the public can access it. They could technically be recording now and uploading it onto YouTube if they really wanted. There's nothing to stop them. Same with the press. They could be taking pictures right now if they've joined the meeting. There's nothing to stop them. So us putting it on there for residents to be able to have a watch back, if they've not been able to attend for whatever reason, at least they can see it. So on that term, I'd say it's fair enough. But of course, any resident or any press who comes along, even to a face-to-face meeting, can record the meeting and upload it wherever they like, and your face would still be in it.
Thank you. I don't think we're going to resolve the differences of opinion there, but I do appreciate you. Thank you for both for expressing your views. Councillor Gaurav, please.
I am a proponent of transparency, but at the same time, I'm wary of certain clauses in the guidance where we start acting as censors of opinion, especially the last clause where we say do not spread disinformation or misinformation. Who becomes the authority on what is considered disinformation or misinformation? And that's something that I would like to stay away from.
I mean, we can take that out if you really wanted and amend it. But it's more sort of if a councillor says something that isn't appropriate at the meeting, to be able to take that out of it. So like if say a councillor swears or they say something which we can't disclose. So say something was said about a member of public that shouldn't be even in the meeting, that can then be muted at that time, so it doesn't cause offence to the member of public.
Yeah, I understand that in terms of privacy concerns and in terms of anything inappropriate. It's just you would probably want to remove the clauses which are subjective in nature.
Yeah, we can amend that, and we can propose on that tonight and amend it, and then bring it back at the next meeting if needs be, or propose that we remove that clause and approve the rest.
Okay, Councillor Hicks, please.
Yes, and I understand what Councillor Cosgrove is saying, and you know that some other parish councils don't actually video everything and put it on YouTube. What they do, they just record it as we are already doing and put the recording available to everybody. Do you think that would be a better option, just to record it?
That would be what's happening. So it's being recorded now, and
Yes.
that recording would then be put on. It's just the part where we go into closed session would be taken out, or a bit where information that isn't for the public that is disclosed.
No, I'm saying you only listen to it, you don't actually see it.
I mean, we can amend it if needs be, but a lot of the councils, especially ABC, have got the faces in. But at the end of the day, there's nothing to stop the member of the public coming along to the meeting and filming it anyway with our faces on and putting it all over social media at the end of the day.
Okay.
Don't we have a clause saying that we shouldn't do that under standing orders?
If a member of the public came to a meeting and wanted to video it, they're perfectly entitled to record all of us, as long as, if there were members of the public present, they are allowed to request and it be granted that they're not included in the video. But if someone wanted to video us at a meeting, then we need to allow that.
Okay.
Peter, please.
Yeah, just two things. Firstly, on the minutes, the minutes it's just to record the decisions that are made. So whichever recording you put on may not replicate the minutes, because when we speak to Calc, they basically said it should be what decisions are made. So the recording will be different to the minutes. Also, Sally, who's a member of the public, has written on the chat, my personal feeling is that you should be keeping these live. It's very easy to have a webcam in the meeting and then turn off when private matters commence. So it's something we could look at if we do go back to face-to-face meetings, that we have a webcam in the pavilion. And I know that Wales are allowing hybrid meetings, so it can be live streamed as part of kind of the protocols going forward.
That's what Ashborough Council does as well.
Okay, thank you. Could I take Councillor Townend, please?
Yeah, again, I just had my kind of plans. I was going to ask what happens after we stop going virtual and go back to face. Will we then still broadcast meetings or record meetings on YouTube? That was just for clarification, and also to agree with Councillor Gura that I think that the last bullet point should be removed from the policy if we are to adopt it.
Well, going on your first point, Ben, it's up to us entirely as a council whether we live stream it when we go back to face. I mean, we get a lot more public been joining us on the Zoom meetings than we have in the pavilion, so it's been great that they've been able to interact and actually see what's going on and hear from us live. Personally, I would love to see us have a webcam and the member publics to be able to see what's going on in the pavilion, because a lot of them won't want to come along because it is a small space, and we are going to be limited on numbers at the end of the day. So that's something that I think would be discussed at maybe the next meeting, what would happen if we go back to face-to-face meetings. But I'm happy to propose that we approve the policy as long as we remove that last bullet point, as that seems to be something that everyone's suggesting.
And I'll be happy to second that.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay, I think, am I correct in saying that's the only motion that's been proposed and seconded?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess the concern I have with this is if a member of the, well, if any member were to disclose sort of too much private information about someone, then is Peter who is making that decision that needs to be cut out?
I'd say that goes down to the chairman and the manager as a last resort.
Okay.
I think it says in the policy, if anything is, anything like that is disclosed, and it gets muted. If it's, releasing public information about a member of public, then we take that out.
Okay, I suppose that follows because in theory, in a meeting, the chair should be closing down anything which is of that nature anyway. I just can imagine it might get a bit controversial, but I suppose that's part of the job. So there we go.
When I spoke to Ashborough Council, they said that when they finish the meeting, anything that is like that where it needs to be closed down by the chair, it's just their team that just mutes it straight away before it gets uploaded. They haven't actually got a dedicated person, so that could be Peter and yourself, James, if you wanted, or we could designate someone who would authorise that. But at the end of the day, it would be normally yourself, James, who would stop that person from carrying on.
So the proposal is that we adopt the policy, although the last bullet point is being removed. Is that correct, Matt?
Yeah.
That's proposed by Councillor Bridger and seconded by Councillor Townend. Can all those in favour show their hands, please? Have you got that counted, Peter? Because I think we might want to record this actually. Okay.
7.
Those against, please. Thank you. And abstaining? Thank you. Okay, so that passes. Do we know if we've got Betsy back? Sorry, could you unmute yourself, please, if you're available? Okay, we'll carry on.
Okay, I am unmuted.
Sorry. Okay. So we'll now consider the parish community grant applications, and if you'd like to introduce the project, and then if you're happy to answer questions, I think members may have some questions for you.
Sorry, James, I'm just going to quickly shoot in there. I forgot to mention at the start that I need to declare a not conflict of interest, but an interest as me and Betsy are trustees on a separate charity, so I won't be able to vote on this application.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Hi, I'm Betsy. It's lovely to meet you all. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you about the funding grant. My interest in applying is because the residents of your parish are just a little outside the town. So I thought maybe a connection through the arts would be interesting. We delivered a project for 1 year in conjunction with Ashford Volunteer Centre, doing almost exactly the same thing, except not on Zoom because we were live. And it was quite successful. Mostly people who attended had mental health issues and mental or physical health issues, and they were isolated and had no access to any free projects to attend so that they could make networks and meet people and do something meaningful that they might be able. And we did have actually Kingsworth residents who did come to the workshops, and it creates networks and it combats isolation and exclusion and all of that. So I thought maybe we could do a project like that with you, since you had funding available. I did propose to do a year's project for 48 weeks, a larger project, but I'm happy to consider. I mean, we are a very solid organization. We have enough funding to see us through for another 3 years. So really, we're not really doing this for the money. We're doing this for people of Ashford, really. And I think that we can do a little 8-week project to start with for 10 residents and see how we go on from there. I don't know what you think, but we could start a smaller project and see how successful it is, and then maybe propose to get more funding to do more 8-week projects.
Okay, thank you. I'll see if council's got some questions for you. I would just say, councillors, although we've got some financial information in front of us, can we avoid referring to anything that's particular to the charity if they provided accounts and such, please? Although obviously the costs of the project you will need to discuss. Councillor Hicks, please.
Thank you, Betsy, for coming along. It's interesting to, hear somebody who's very keen on these sort of things. Might I ask, when you did the project with the Ashford Volunteer Group, how many people were involved in that one?
Over the year, we had 60 people coming and going.
That's fascinating. Thank you. So, I rather like your idea of starting in a small way, and then sort of continuing it, sort of putting your foot in the water, so to speak, and then going a bit further on afterwards.
Sure.
Interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome. We did have 12 participants from Kingsnorth when we did the project. So there might be, there'll definitely be 12 residents who would remember the project. So
good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So with the smaller initial phase that you're suggesting,
yeah,
for those 10 participants, what is the cost that you imagine is with that?
Okay, so each participant gets a package with all the art materials and everything they need to start the project. So that's £50 per participant. So that's £500. The teaching costs will obviously be the same. I propose £30 an hour for 3 hours per week. And we're talking about 8 weeks. So that's 8 times 3 times £30. I didn't do the calculations because I got stuck at the hospital longer than expected, and they still didn't manage to do the scan because they couldn't find a vein that worked. So I'm sorry about the delay in me participating. So it will be 8 times 3 hours a week for 10 participants. No, we don't need participants. 8 times 3 hours a week times £30 a week, an hour, sorry. 8 times 3 times.
£720.
Yeah. Plus there would be obviously a little cost towards, I'm going to have to get Zoom to be able to have 10 participants. So Zoom's about £10 a month. So £20 for the Zoom, and maybe a little bit of cost towards mobile usage and admin costs, which won't be much. So I'm guessing about £1,300, £400.
Okay, thank you. Can I take Councillor Gaurav, please?
Yes, a couple of questions. First,
Yes.
Would this be open to anyone and everyone, or would there be some sort of a selection criteria for people who are eligible? And secondly, has there been a registration of interest to know how many people overall will be interested, so that we know how many sessions we are going to have?
No, I haven't done any work towards that because I was waiting to hear back from you to see how interested you would be. And I probably wouldn't expect the funding to come to us until we do have the 10 people registered. And what was the first question, sorry? Oh, yes, about the residents. We will do our utmost best to get 100% Kingsnorth residents on the project.
Is there an eligibility criteria? Or
obviously there will be, only the project will only be open to residents of Kingsnorth.
Okay, thank you.
Of any age, of any background is not an issue at all.
I'm just wondering if, given the rationale behind this project, it would make more sense to have some other eligibility criteria as well.
Oh yes, obviously people with physical, and same as when we did with the Ashford Volunteer Centre, people who've got mental health issues, who've got physical health issues, are socially isolated, cannot afford to pay to go on art courses or join any courses, the same eligibility criteria.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Hicks, please.
If nobody's got anything else to say, might I suggest that we allocate up to £1,500 for the first initial stage of this project. I don't know what other people think.
I think that's the
That would be
proposal.
just as far as we're concerned. So
Sorry, I think what I'd like to do now is, does anybody have any more questions for Betsy? And then I think we'll move to trying to make a decision on this.
I don't necessarily have a question directly for Betsy. I just asked a question in general. I remember last time when we discussed this, is there actually funds in the funds available to do it still within it, or would we have to put something else in?
So my understanding of that would be that there was £10,000 in the new financial year budget for community grant applications. So
okay,
we're now starting a new year, and that's available again.
Right. Okay.
In the previous year, we did increase it to 20 because we thought, it being the first year, there may be more demand because there'd be some pent up demand there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Right. So, did I have any other councillors wishing to speak? Okay. I agree with some of the aims of this project, but personally, I feel that the cost per individual is quite high, and it's not something I can support at this moment in time. It may be that in a few years, when we've worked our way down some things that are delivering value, other things that deliver value to residents, that this may be something we look at. But I think there's other items with a potentially greater return to our residents that I'd be looking to focus on in the next year. So I don't feel personally that I could support this application. So I propose refusal. At the moment, we don't have a proposal that's been proposed and seconded. So is there anybody wishing to make an alternative suggestion? Or
I would second yours.
Sorry.
So I would second yours, James. And just for the thing, I think that maybe if there was a declaration of interest and we knew how much uptake there would be and how much demand there was for it, then I think there would be, I'd have more appetite to vote for it. But at the moment, I second your motion.
I know, as an example, there was a scheme previously worked up with around the ponds in Park Farm, and there was going to be an arts project there with the schools and things, and that was getting a degree of Arts Council funding, and then the parish council was going to be topping it up. So I don't know if that's a future way forward, but I'm not quite seeing it at the moment. Did I have any other councillors wishing to speak? Okay, so the only proposal that's been proposed and seconded is refusal. Can all those in favour please show their hands? Okay. Any against? Any abstentions, please? Thank you. Thank you very much for coming, Betsy, and perhaps there's something we can do in the future.
yes, what I was going to say before you leave is maybe when things are better and we can get together as a community, maybe we can do it in real time and real life instead of a Zoom proposal. So yeah, that's fine with me. And thank you very much for hearing me out, and thank you for voting.
We may be able to do some sort of trial event or something on a smaller scale and build from there, maybe.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So we'll move back to.
Bye.
Thank you. Policies 6B, the co-option policy. As there was some requests for further detail on how the co-option should be done before the last one, Peter and I thought that we'd put in, so there's more certainty in the policy, the procedure that we followed, so that in future there's no further doubts and questions. So is anybody willing to propose and second that, or do they have questions, please?
I'll happily propose it.
I'll happily second it.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, all those in favour, please show your hands. Anyone abstaining or against, please vocalise that. Thank you. So financial matters, to receive the March finance report documents. Is there anything in particular you wanted to highlight there, Christine?
No, there was nothing in particular that I wanted to point out.
Thank you. I believe.
James, I just wanted to go on, James, you say what you're going to say first.
I was going to say, does Councillor Townend want to speak?
He doesn't, because he hasn't done the job that he should have done.
Oh, no.
Because he's been incredibly busy, but I will endeavour to get it done this week as soon as possible. So my apologies.
Okay.
I was just going to add that obviously prior to finalising last year's accounts, you will see that in the bank as of the end of March, we had 273,440 pounds and 46p, meaning we've added to our reserves 36,253 pounds and 6p. Obviously, there could be a couple of things that come out from last year, like we haven't closed the accounts as such, but just to give you an idea of the amount that obviously has been added to the reserves.
Thank you. I don't see anyone with any questions. So to review invoices and consider authorising payments. Have we got any large invoices, Peter?
We've got the calc invoice, which is it's another item slightly down a bit further.
Okay. To receive an update on the new bank accounts and authorise any action.
Lloyd's haven't been in contact with me after I left them obviously a message. I applied online, and then they had to phone me for some more details, which I've got from the people that were going to be on the account, but they haven't actually phoned me to clarify opening the bank. I'd like to ask if councillors would be happy for me to approach a number of other banks that have now opened business banking, such as HSBC, Santander, and another, I think it was potentially Barclays, that have opened their accounts now to new business. So I can start exploring them as well, as long as it meets our treasury strategy.
Okay. So I propose that we allow the parish manager to make inquiries about other bank accounts, and then we can bring back those options to a future meeting.
Yeah, I'll happily second that for you, James.
Thank you. Did anybody wish to speak? Okay, all those in favour, please show your hands. Any against or abstaining, please vocalise that. Thank you.
James, can I just come in just on the banking bit after that?
Sure.
On the banking that we applied for, I take it they've stopped the application and destroyed like the data and stuff that we gave them, because of course you have things like national insurance numbers and stuff on.
Yes, I had contact from the bank recently, and due to the one councillor not willing to supply the information, he has destroyed all of the other information.
Cool, thank you, Peter. And can you just confirm we've destroyed it as a parish council as well, the copies we had?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the next item was to consider appointing a new auditor. It's that time of year, and the auditor that we currently use, I believe we've used for at least 7 years. It's good practice to move every 5 or so years, I believe. So Peter has contacted at least 2 that I'm aware, potential auditors. One is unable to take on the work due to the existing number of audits they've got to do. Did you want to say anything more, Peter?
I approached David Bucket at Calc, who is unfortunately hasn't got enough space on his books, and I also approached another auditor who does the auditing for Kennington Community Council. He did come back to me and say he is available, and his costs are £60 per on-site hour, and he said that he would be looking at about 3 to 4 hours work for the audit.
Okay. So I'd like to propose that we appoint a new auditor in the coming, well, for the set of accounts that currently need to be audited.
Happy to second that, James.
I'll second that. It's good practice to always change your auditor every 5 years or so.
Thank you. Did anyone else wish to speak? Okay, all those in favour, please show your hands. Any against or abstaining, can you please vocalise that? Thank you. So the next item is to consider renewing the calc membership and authorised payment. So this actually usually renews automatically in April, but we've brought it to the parish council because it's a large invoice, and so that you can decide. Councillor Wedgbury, please.
I'm happy to move.
Okay.
Seconded.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak?
Yeah, can I say what good value we get out of them? You're currently your representative, but I mean they do all the planning things. They're currently going to talk about permitted development rights, and the William Harvey Hospital that we talked about last time is going to be put on their next agenda, and they give loads of advice, particularly during this COVID episode to Peter, which has been, I think, very valuable. So I just want to say I do think we're getting value for money.
Thank you. So all those in favour, please show your hands. Okay, any against or abstaining, please vocalise that. Okay, so I never actually did send that round, did I, Peter? The next one, F. So I did prepare a draft for, sorry, go on,
Jack,
Peter.
I can't see Councillor Cosgrove, so I don't know if he's voted for or against, so he needs to say yes or no.
He's got his hand up.
Yeah, I agree that.
Okay,
okay.
I can't see okay.
the. Right, thank you. So item F was to note the proposed monthly financial health check procedure. I did send a draft of that to Ben, to Councillor Townend, who was going to do this month, but I forgot that it was on the main agenda, and I should have put a link there. So I will ensure it's on the next agenda for members, but it's generally things we've already discussed.
I'm sure that I'll get in touch with Christine straight away and get it done.
Okay. Could I have a councillor that's willing to do the financial health check for next month, please, to volunteer? It should take about 15 minutes, I think.
I'm happy to volunteer, James, if needs be.
Thank you. We'll take Councillor Bridger next then, please, Peter. The next item is planning matters to consider all applications received. I know I usually go through these and write comments, but I haven't managed that today, or yes, over the weekend. So if ward members have got comments on the applications in their ward or neighbouring wards, then you're welcome to make them. Otherwise, I'd be suggesting that we delegate this to Peter in consultation with members and deal with this via email. So if anybody's written comments, I know Councillor Hicks has. Did you want to go through those now, Councillor Hicks, and then we'll do?
No, as I've written.
Okay. So is anyone willing to second my proposal that we deal with this, delegate to Peter and deal with this via email? Okay, thank you. All those in favour, please show your hands. Any against or abstaining, can you please vocalise that? Thank you. So to note decisions, Marie has prepared a document on the decisions that have been made in the past month for members' information. To consider appeals and enforcement matters. So Councillor Wedgbury's let us know about an appeal in Park Farm, which went against the Borough Council's decision. In terms of enforcement matters, members have previously raised about the Cloverleaf roundabout. Councillor Cornish has forwarded a statement from Ashford Borough Council which says various departments in Ashford Borough Council, along with partner agencies, are aware of the issues being reported regarding a motorbike track being operated at the site known as the Cloverleaf roundabout at the A2070. Communication with both the site owners and the operators are ongoing. Please report any instances of nuisance or antisocial behaviour to the council via the report it form on the website linked here, and then there's the link. Now, I know Councillor Short has commented on this a bit, but if that is a planning enforcement, it's by no means a quick process. There would be, the applicant would be given time to submit an application retrospectively for the works. That would then need to be decided. Ashford would then need to enforce the decision if they decided against it. So I can't see that there's going to be much happening there quickly, although I do appreciate residents' frustrations with what they've reported to us. Councillor Wedgbury, please.
Yes, the people operating the so-called bike track, they do it every Saturday and Sunday. They start about 10:30. It's the same people turning up. There are a number of issues over there. I think we need to discuss this in the closed session because there's decisions we might want to make or suggest that is not in the public interest that the landowner knows about them. So I think we should discuss the Cloverleaf in closed session.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy to do that because there may be information that members have that they're not able to discuss in public. So I would agree with that. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on appeals and enforcement matters? Okay. So any other planning matters? To consider further actions for Court Lodge planning application prior to planning committee. The parish council's commented at length on the Court Lodge application. I think there's probably well over 20 pages of comments. Much of that appears not to be being addressed by the applicant, nor we've not seen any comments on it or evidence of revisions to reflect those. I would suggest that it might be helpful, or we might want to consider using some residents that we know have specialist skills. There's doctors in ecology, there's transport planners and things, and other residents with local knowledge. We may be able to put together, have a somewhat structured Zoom meeting discussing some of the issues that we've raised in written form, which may be more digestible to members of the planning committee, and run them through that. And it may be that some committee members watch that, and that's a different way of presenting things that we have already presented, and may feel that we get a bit more interest in those concerns, maybe. So if members would like us to, we could post to Facebook, seeing if there were particular members of the public that wish to be involved in putting that together, and then we could bring the video back to the PC to see if members wanted to approve the potential use of distribution of that at a later date. I don't know how members feel about that. Anyone got any comments?
I think it's a good idea, and I think any way to get our voices and opinions heard more than they are at the moment is a good thing.
Okay. So are you happy to second that, Councillor Tarrant?
Yes, I'll happily second that.
Okay, if nobody else wishes to speak, then we'll move to a vote. So all those in favour, please show your hands. Okay, any against or abstaining, can you please vocalise that? Thank you. So to consider, correspondence and written reports from external parties. I didn't think, Peter, I don't think you particularly wanted to raise from memory. Okay, So we'll move on to the next item, which is the parish manager's report. Was there anything in particular you wanted to highlight, Peter, or should I let members ask questions? Or
no, I just I did add some photos in, which I hope everyone's seen, from the John Wallace Academy.
okay. Did anyone have any questions there for Peter? Okay. So parish councillors' reports. Councillor Townend.
Yeah, I just as being the parish councillor for the representative of the cafe, the community cafe, just giving an update on it, and would say first of all, thank you very much to Peter and the team for helping get to a stage where we can be opening on Monday, this coming Monday, the 19th of April. So it's going to be open initially for takeaways only. So it's not going to be open to the pavilion won't be accessible to the public, and no toilets for the public either. But we'll be opening 5 times a week over 3 days. So that'll be on Monday from 2 till 4, Wednesday 9 to 11, and then again at 2 to 4 on a Wednesday, and then Thursday 9 to 11, and Thursday 2 to 4 again. Just to let you know, obviously, I think that the cafe is very fantastically reasonably priced, but possibly slightly too reasonably priced. So we've had a slight increase in the prices, and to go alongside that, though, obviously we're now having our coffee supplied by Bloss, which is a very local Kingsnorth coffee roasters. If you've never been there, it's fantastic. Payments, we've got an app, so we won't need a till or anything like that there, so it'll literally just be taken electronically. Just a note from the volunteers, they're all very excited and very happy to return and to offer the service that they're doing. And just like I said, just to confirm, there is no seating access at this moment or toilet access to the public. I just want to say a really big thank you to everyone to be able to get to this stage, because I know a lot of work's gone into it.
Okay, thank you very much. Did anyone else want to update us on what they've been up to? Councillor Hicks and Councillor Bridger, please.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to go to a KLC, a local joint planning meeting next week, I think it is, with David Ledger. And at a later date, we'll be talking about permitted development rights, because I gather the government is asking how they can improve these things. Secondly, I was very brave and did a speed watch check today up on Mill Hill with help from Matt. It was an eye-opener, I will say. And thirdly, I had an email from a Mr. Steve Johnson, who obviously lives on Church Hill, and he's suggesting that maybe we should consider having a low traffic neighbourhood just for Church Hill. And that does sound to me that's something we maybe ought to investigate. I wonder if we can put it on our action sheet and investigate, because if in fact we can get low traffic through Church Hill, I think it would be quite an advantage. But I don't know the ins and outs of what this scheme is, so I think we need to investigate.
So we can get that added to the action sheet. Councillor Hicks, are you willing to be the councillor on that?
Yes, certainly.
List,
I'll investigate. Yeah.
You can research it and then bring it back to us, and then we can have a look. Thank you. Councillor Wedgbury, please.
Sorry, I'm totally opposed to low traffic zones. They're anti-working class. They're there for the rich and not supporting the poor. They're there to remove the working class from the roads and having vehicles. I'm utterly opposed to them. And I have to say that straight away. They've been done in London. One of the mayoral candidates is promising to remove every single one of them from London. They are not a good thing. They're, as I keep saying, they're anti-working class. They're poverty maintaining. They support the elite. Utterly opposed.
Okay.
I have to say that.
I mean, I will say I'm a bit sceptical because the traffic's going to be displaced elsewhere, but I've not seen much information on it, so I'm happy to have a look and keep an open mind. Councillor X?
I think it's unlikely that we will actually proceed because I do share Jim's views. However, I do think we should investigate to find out if it is, if it is appropriate. So I will investigate and report back to him. And we can take it from there.
Thank you, Councillor Bridger.
Yeah, just a few updates. I had a lovely walk around the parish on Easter Sunday and had the drone out. So I got some really nice shots of the parish, and the amount of greenery that we've got is really nice to see. It's something that we need to protect. I did share some photos on Facebook and with councillors as well. I did see that the extension for the ICU at William Harvey Hospital has been approved, and I know it's something that we were quite supportive of, so I'm really happy to see that's happened. It was just going on the hampers that the John Willis have done, that they sent an email with the pictures. If possible, I know I did mention it to James, but when COVID allows, now we're starting to ease in lockdown. If the school's willing to allow a councillor to go along and see what they're doing and maybe have a photo to share what we're doing and share all the good work that we're doing, I'd like to go along because I'm an ex-student of the John Willis. I know Mr. Woolley, and I think it'd be good to advertise that we are supporting local schools within the parish and to show residents the good work that they're doing with the money that we've used their taxpayers' money for. So if that's something that the school's willing to allow, then I'd like to go along to that and do that on behalf of the council. And yeah, that's all I've really got for this month.
Thank you. Councillor Tennant?
Just picking up on what Councillor Bridger just said, I think it's a fantastic idea that if the school allows, once COVID allows as well, that there is something like that. But I would like to propose maybe that it would be someone like Peter that went and done it, because Peter put a hell of a lot of work and effort into making that happen. And if there is to be any kind of recognition or fallout from it, then I think that it's fully deserved for Peter to be the person that gets recognised for that. Nothing against Councillor Bridger, of course. I just think that Matthew, that Peter would be the perfect representative for that.
I've got some reservations about us publicising that programme too widely, and whether I've forgotten the name of the people at the schools now. They get Kingsnorth residents approaching them, believing that they're entitled to things that the flows, they then have to refuse them because they don't think they qualify, and whether it makes life more difficult for the flows. So I'm personally rather, if we do publicise this at all, it's perhaps what we did during COVID after the event, rather than now while the programme's still particularly active. But I appreciate some people may not agree with that.
I agree.
Okay, so have we got a proposal here? I think
I'll propose that you go afterwards, once the whole thing is blown over. Once we haven't got COVID, we can publicise how good we've been, and maybe you can go round to the schools if you wish.
Yeah, I think once we've done the programme and it's done and over, then we can publicise it, even if it's Peter or we send one councillor, depending on each school. But I think Peter will be good to go along. But yeah, definitely after it's all happened and the money's been spent.
So should we add as the action sheet item, rather than a particular visit, that we start thinking about having a visit and seeing what that might look like and what the procedure is, and then it actually happens a bit later in the year?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, thank you. So does anyone else have any other items for future agendas?
I think I don't know if it's on there, James, about the pavilion and the cafe, looking at the advertising signs that I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. But when I went round on Easter Sunday, there's no signs on the front of the pavilion, so you can't really see that it's the cafe or that we own it. It's only on the site, so it's not very well advertised. It'd be good to get the cafe sign on the front underneath the windows.
Okay, thank you. Yep, that makes sense. I've made a note of that. Councillor Gaurav, please.
I was just going to commend the council because we've seen some very nice flowers blooming, especially around Village Green. And I was wondering if there could be some way in which we could have something around planting more flowers around the parish itself, because we don't see too many flowers except for the usual flora that we have. So perhaps something that could be looked at.
I did mention to Peter, but I don't know if we're going to have the time about someone could try and have a drive around and figure out where there aren't bulbs that you imagine there would be and things like that. And then there's other types of flowering plants also, obviously, but that's something we could look at.
If I may also add, off the back of the sunflower competition, if we could figure out if there are some areas where the winning sunflowers or the remaining sunflowers could be put on the land itself rather than pots, that would be good as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hicks, please.
Down at Ham Street, they've done exactly what you're suggesting, Kumar. They've got flower boxes all the way around the different places in the village, and each flower box is sponsored by a company, and I think they call it Blooms, and Woodchurch have also got a similar scheme where they've also got flower boxes everywhere. So maybe that is something we could look into, and that would get more people involved as well. But I like your idea of more flowers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it was Councillor Wedgbury and then Councillor Bridger.
Yes, Kuma beat me to it because I was going to suggest, because I put flowering bulbs in my front garden and my side garden on my house. It brightens the area in the spring. It makes it nicer for the spring. And I would have suggested that. I've completely forgotten the second point I was going to raise. I'll come back to it. If I remember it, I'll come back.
Yeah. Councillor Bridger.
Yeah, Ashford Borough Council have actually got a competition running at the moment, Ashford in Bloom, looking for residents to start planting flowers and stuff, with a number of competitions for youngsters and different categories. So it might be something that we could advertise as a parish council, especially with the newsletter, and make residents and our neighbours aware about that because they might want to get involved. And then definitely look at, as a parish council, what land we've got. We can maybe put some bulbs on if we haven't currently got any on there. But I know definitely Ashford Borough Council got a competition running to get more flowers in the borough.
Okay, thank you. I think Peter can explore that idea and bring it back to us. So, were there any other items? Okay, in that case, we're going to move into closed session. So, could I ask that members of the public leave, please?